not like I just woke up one day and thought like I can't do this anymore. It's actually the opposite. Like I could absolutely keep going. But I also know that that's not the point. The point is I would have been overriding myself. I would be saying one thing to you every Monday, to teaching you how to trust your intuition while simultaneously ignoring my own. And that does not feel like integrity to me.
Hey, beautiful. Welcome to Naturally Empowered Living, your safe space to guiding you on your unapologetic self-awakening journey. This is your weekly sanctuary for waking up from autopilot and transforming the way you approach life through the power of meditation, energetics, and root cause therapy. It is my mission to help you heal unprocessed emotions and release stuck energies by alchemizing your struggle cycles into opportunities for deep self-love, awareness, trust, and connection, to return to your innate essence of being, stepping back into your energy of alignment. Because here, we honor all parts of ourselves, the messy and the magic, the shadows and the light, embodying all parts that make you, you. So if you are ready to get to the root of cultivating real change, get cozy, grab your journal and maybe favorite crystals, and let's discover our power within together.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Naturally Empowered Living podcast. This is your host, guide, and mentor in all things energetics, emotions, and self-awakening, Jenna Smith. And today's episode, I'm sure you've read the title. I'm sure you maybe read the show notes. You probably have a little bit of an idea of what this episode is going to be. All the feels. It's really surreal. Not sure if we're going to get through this without crying, but we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And this is going to be such an amazing episode. I know it is. I've been writing this outline. I've been pouring my heart into this episode for weeks. And it's been in my heart for a long time. It's been on my mind for a long time. And I've just been really at a loss for words a lot of the time, just like I am right now. But every single time that this has come up for me, I would be like, nope, not yet. Keep pumping through. Consistency, consistency, consistency. This is just what I'm meant to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing my podcast. And I've known for a few weeks now that it is time to take a pause on the Naturally Empowered Living podcast. I knew that by accepting it, it was finally going to feel real. And as you can tell in my voice, I still am pretty speechless. And this is the first time I'm actually verbalizing. I've told a few people, but this is the first time I'm actually verbalizing that I'm taking this pause on this podcast. And before we go any further, I just want to say thank you. Whether you've listened since the very beginning when we were the Balanced Mom Method podcast, which we're going to get into in a little bit, or whether you're someone new and maybe like somehow this is your very first episode that you've ever stumbled upon, thank you. And if this is your first episode that you've ever stumbled upon, I promise the catalog, the episodes, close to 200 episodes within the Naturally Empowered Living podcast are not going anywhere. So you have a lot of luscious content to dive into. But thank you for you listening. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for allowing me into your walks, into your workouts, into your car rides, into your kitchens, your healing, your life. It has been one of the greatest honors of mine having this podcast. I started this podcast on October 17th, 2021. And looking back now, not even saying looking back, like I've always known this was never just a podcast. This was an outlet from the very beginning. And even then, I was documenting almost like the death of one version of myself and ready to become, the birthing of another. Because at the time, I was pregnant with my second child. I had a 2-year-old already at home. I was moving through my Saturn return on that tail end, which, if you've gone through that Saturn return, every 28, 29 years, you know exactly what I mean. Like, it just shit hits the fan and it's like Saturn comes around like, "Okay, have we learned yet? Okay, which direction are you gonna go?" So, just everything. Like my identity, my relationships, my beliefs, priorities, purpose, everything was happening. And I mean, then I didn't know, or like I didn't know what I know now. I didn't see what I see now. But so looking back, that's what makes it so bittersweet. But at that time, October 2021, I was stepping into motherhood again in a few short months. The daughter or the birth of my daughter came a couple, months into starting my podcast. And I was learning life all over again. I was figuring out who I was becoming once again. Now, with this new identity of being a mother of two, learning how to now raise two little humans while simultaneously learning how to mother myself and going through this healing journey that after having my first, that awakening has was triggered. So I was really probably in that dark night of the soul, if that resonates with you at all. And I don't really understand a lot about, like, the archetypes of the maiden, the mother, the crone. I've heard of them, right? But I don't know too much, but what I do know is that I've lived them. Like, I just have this innate feeling, I know that I've gone through those transitions from maiden into mother, and now what a death that is of a new identity shift. Like, no one could prepare you for your evolution, your growth. I mean, a lot of times we force away from it, right? Like we're trying to control the present time of possibly keeping things the same or forcing what is inevitably going to happen regardless. And no one can prepare you for life, right? So it was just this beautiful evolution into who I was becoming then. Like, okay, I remember, oh my gosh, I remember talking about this on the Balanced Mom Method podcast. So that's what the podcast was when we started back in 2021. Like, people prepare you for diapers, people prepare you for sleepless nights, people prepare you for the feeding schedules and like all things baby, right? But one of the things that really irked me was becoming a new mom, and no one ever really talked about mom. Like, one day you're going to wake up and realize the woman that you were before doesn't quite exist anymore. Like, she's not gone. I remember reading one of the prenatal books, like you're just upgrading from 1.0 to 2.0. Like, she's not gone, but she's different, right? You are stepping into a new expansion, a new identity, whatever you want to call that. A part of you had to step aside, fall away, die in order for this new version of you to come to. And honestly, this podcast became that place where I was able to process so much of that transition into motherhood. Like, back then, the podcast, some of you may remember, was called the Balanced Mom Method. Still something so very near and dear to me. Like, I smile saying that because that version of me then was exactly who I needed at that time. I was learning, I was curious, I was obsessed with habits and mindset and time management because I was obsessed with motherhood. I was obsessed with maximizing my time, finding time for myself because I definitely fell away, right? Taking care of this new human, and morning routines and wellness and mindfulness, really trying to figure out how to be everything for everyone while balancing it all. And I'm pausing because that's a very polarizing topic, right? Like trying to hold it all together. And I obviously have evolved and grown so much since then, but that's where I was then, figuring out how to balance it all. Balance may not exist to some, but I've always believed that we do cycle through seasons of balance, like thinking of that infinity symbol and where all sides meet in that center. Like, balance can exist. It really just depends what season you're in that moment. And then you might fall in and fall out, but there are moments of that balance. And learning how to dance with that dance of balance of life, that's where I was in that season of my life. And this podcast was that outlet because social media was a complete overstimulating game, not game, but it wasn't good for my mental health at the time. So podcasting became that outlet. Every Monday, I mean, every week I would sit down behind the microphone, new episodes aired every Monday, and I would simply share what I was learning in real time. Nothing fancy, just like maybe what I'm moving through this week, a habit that I've worked on, and I was like figuring out like the pillars, like the mindset. I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk about time management. I wanted to talk about um mindset, time management and wellness, like but habits, like that umbrella of like habits and how to live a life of it wasn't authenticity then. See, I'm like, oh, it was really habit focused. And it felt so good at the time. And honestly, like it still does because I knew I never wanted my podcast to ever feel like I was pretending that I had it all figured out. I hope that it felt like we were figuring it out together. And then, of course, my daughter arrived and life expanded again. And I expanded again. And slowly the conversation started to change. It wasn't just about motherhood anymore. It wasn't just about habits and routines and productivity and balance. And I started to see in like my client space also, like was listening too, right? As I was becoming myself. And it started to turn into more of awakening about waking up from autopilot and about thinking differently to see differently and questioning the stories that we've possibly inherited about healing and energy and intuition and ourselves. And I started asking different questions. And that's when this rebrand was born. That's when Naturally Empowered Living was born. I had Naturally Empowered Living like a blog and I had a website back in like 2019. Naturally Empowered Living was a brand and entity already, but I wanted to merge the Balanced Mom Method podcast into the Naturally Empowered Living brand, I guess. And I knew that I wasn't just speaking to moms anymore. I was speaking to humans. I was speaking to souls wearing these meat suits. That's just so silly. But like I was speaking to the beings of who we are. And it felt more like that self-awakening or helping others step into what was calling them home to themselves. It was more about simply like being quote unquote stuck in survival mode as a mom, which oh my gosh, this just dawned on me. Working in nervous system regulation and nervous system capacity, that also I'm helping people out of survival mode, but I've never really termed it that way because as a working with moms, I was really terming survival mode heavily because we were in autopilot and you live in survival mode and you do everything for everyone else. What about you? And I was really in that terminology of survival mode heavy then. But oh my goodness, that's just so beautiful. I just had that little epiphany to where I'm helping people step out of survival mode from the nervous system perspective. Again, same concepts, just evolved and expanded. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I love it. Really like my soul's purpose, my life's work, if you've been with us for so long on this show. I wanted to help people wake up. I wanted to help people wake up, not just spiritually, but to themselves, emotionally, mentally, energetically. I wanted to help people see that even through our struggle cycles, you can use those as opportunities for self love and growth and connection. And even when we, wish things would disappear or these struggles or these patterns would like go away, or if this would happen, then this, that type of thing, to view from a different lens and a different perspective. And that's really what this work, I mean, this evolution of this work has been about for me, like helping you discern, learn the difference between your intuition and the external expectations or your fear, helping you discern between the inner wisdom and the external pressure, helping you remember that everything that you've been searching for is inside of you and it has been inside of you all along. And then over the past couple years, something shifted again. The subconscious entered my life in a much deeper way. Yes, energetics was a part of this awakening journey, but now I was being called into something deeper: somatic healing, nervous system work, root cause therapy, emotional processing, embodiment. And everything has been building blocks in itself since episode 1 of this show. And that is such a beautiful, beautiful reminiscing. And through all of this, it felt like everything I was learning, everything I was studying, the books, the podcasts, the spirituality, the energy work, like I was finally landing. Like things were coming together, the dots, the gaps that I was having questions about life. Like I would learn this and then I'd be like, well, what about this? And then I would find the answer to that. And it was all like this remembering. And I'm like, that wisdom, I knew it was always inside of me. And then I would read something and be like, yes, I've known that forever. Thank you for, reminding me. And I felt like things were all coming together. The dots were being connected. Like not just that I had another modality, but it's almost like I closed that gap. I bridged that gap. And I'll never forget. I don't know if I've ever shared this on this show. When I was really in the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey, I don't even know if I had my podcast yet. But I just had my blog and I was wondering, like, how do I monetize this? I obviously was a stay-at-home mom at the time. I was in network marketing, wanted to get out of network marketing, started my blog. I already left oncology, so I had no income to that, capacity, the sustainability. And I remember I booked like a clarity call with some coach, right? Some growth entrepreneur coach. I found him on social media. And I'll never forget, he made me cry, not in a good way. He made me cry on this clarity call because of the force and how much he was calling me out, not just like in a loving criticism type way. He told me, I will never forget this. Do you expect, he said this to me, do you expect that you can Frankenstein your business model together and actually be successful? And to me now, obviously, when I got off that call, I knew I wanted so badly because, I would read their reviews and everything was so hunky dory. But I knew with all of me, I'm like, this does not feel good. And I trusted that without understanding the energetics. I wasn't into the energetics yet. I wasn't into the intuition yet. Um, Completely just like the starving mom trying to help other people. And I'm like, I don't understand a business model. But now it's just so interesting because where are we today in the world? We are at this brink of following this black and white modality or this picture, black and white picture that is truly sinking, falling away versus creating your multi passion, creating what feels quote unquote good to you, and creating, heck yes, this Frankenstein, whatever he called it, put together business model because you are going to speak to who you are meant to speak to, and those people are going to find you and resonate with what you offer. Not everyone wants what I have to offer. Not everyone will understand in the way, in the intentions that I'm giving it, right? There there are multiple avenues to the same destination, but there's different ways to receive it. And that's what is so beautiful about offering your gifts and your services because you are going to resonate with the people that are meant to resonate with you and allow the other people that don't resonate with you to find what does. And I will never forget that. It hurt bad. Because I didn't really cry then, in that phase of my life because I didn't cry for a long time. And I remember crying and I don't know if he felt bad or not. He's probably like, get this girl off the call as quickly as you can. But this missing piece, no, circling back, I took a little tangent there. Circling back to how I was bridging these gaps is I knew deep down that we have become so good at like quote unquote understanding ourselves or like learning like this is what I struggle with or this is, I'm the people pleaser or like we are so good at trying to analyze and fix that we forget how to actually be with ourselves. We're good at the up here, in the mindset piece, analyzing, fixing, understanding, but we forgot how to actually be, how to pause, how to connect, how to feel, how to allow, how to integrate. And that truly, as each of these stepping stones have been a beautiful progression of my work, that has been the biggest evolution of my life's work. And if you've listened to episode 187, only a couple episodes back, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I shared so much more about that transition there. But this podcast has really documented every chapter, every stepping stone, building block of that becoming. Every version of Jenna, every evolution, every season. And honestly, like I wouldn't change a thing. And I am just so thankful to have had this space. And what's so funny is, I mean, hitting record for that on that very first episode, I had no idea what this little corner of the internet, of this RSS feed would become. I had no idea who would listen, if anyone would listen. If I didn't know if I was gonna stick, well, I guess I did know I would stick with it because I am that definition of insanity, like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like if I commit to something, I'm committed. So it's also like unlearning that piece too. Also understanding the when enough is enough. And we're gonna get into that in a little bit. Not like is enough, but like when it is time to let go and to let go of that title or that honor, that badge of being the consistency queen when you know that it's time to let go. And this podcast has truly become that outlet for me. And that's why it's so bittersweet. Why this episode is so bittersweet. Because part of me, of course, wants to hang on to that outlet and doesn't want to let go. It's been a place for me to process, to teach, to question, to share what I was learning in real time. And it's been so much more than that, too. Every single Monday since October of 2021, every single Monday, I've only taken one break. And it was this past summer when I started to get that little pull, that little nudge. But this past summer, last summer when we took our road trip and went away for 2 weeks, I decided to just be with my family, and I'm so proud I've done that. Again, going back to that consistency piece, work hard, show up, push through the struggle. It doesn't matter how hard it is, you do the thing anyway, and just like that force, that urgency, and I was so proud that I took that pause to just be. But other than that, every effing Monday without fail. And it's interesting because, I mean, if you've had a podcast or if you have any, anything, a blog or just any sort of routine, right? You get into this rhythm, this cadence, this commitment, if you will, that, of course, some people do it differently. They release different seasons or they take breaks or they disappear for a while and come back. But if you have any sort of rhythm or cadence in any piece of your life or your business, or if you know me, you know that that's never been me. I don't just like take a break. I'm learning how to soften in that regard. But when I commit to something, I commit. And I am as consistent as they come, like sometimes to a fault, like I'm getting at, right? So it started for me to feel like this hamster wheel. Even if that consistency was starting to feel like an obligation more than an inspiration, I was someone who always follows through. And I would go back to, well, this felt like an outlet at that one time. This saved me in that season of my life. And of course, I'm proud of that. Like consistency has built so much of my life. I've built this community, I've built trust, I've built confidence in myself. It's taught me to, I'm able to rely on myself. However, there's also another lesson that's very important too, that sometimes consistency can quietly become an attachment. It can become an identity. It can become a protector. And that discipline can slowly become obligation, and you might feel resentful. Like something that once felt so incredibly expansive can start to feel resentful. And that's not that that's bad. It's because possibly, and this is the lesson that I'm taking from this, is that maybe I've completed the lesson that this podcast has came to teach me. Like this podcast has given me so much more that I could ever put into words. I mean, getting behind a microphone and speaking, I never. I mean, it's so interesting now, like to think of me being on stage because have never really had confidence in my voice, and it has given me confidence in my voice. It has taught me how to trust my own discernment in like real time. Like I've learned how much my perspective matters because here I am helping you know that your perspective matters too. And this podcast, I mean, it's taught me so much that I don't need permission to share what's truly on my heart in these moments. And for someone who spent a lot of my life looking outside of myself for answers, that's been one of the greatest gifts imaginable because every week I had to trust myself. There wasn't always someone sitting across, from the mic that I was interviewing. This show has mostly been a solo type episode style show. And it's just me and a microphone and you. And I would go into this, sacred little vortex and, say my little prayers and my intentions to reach the listeners that are meant to hear the words coming out of my mouth. And for me, sometimes I didn't even know the words that were coming out of my mouth because I was trusting my heart, my soul, that whatever I was meant to say would come out. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying, but it's also been the most freeing thing. This podcast has helped me become unapologetic in my own voice. And week after week, it's really beautiful now to think like, where have you been every week when you're listening? Like, you show up too. You trusted me with your stories, with your insight, with your struggles, with your breakthroughs, with your grief, your joy. Like, I've met so many of you through this podcast. Some of you have become clients. Some of you have attended, events. Some of you have walked into my in-person practice. Some of you I've hugged in real life, and others I've never met, but we've shared an energetic bond. And somehow you've come with me every Monday. And that's not something that I take lightly. And that is a big piece of what made this decision so emotional. Like it's never been about the numbers for me. I don't even understand I mean I understand analytics, but I've never cared enough to look at the analytics, to look at what episode trends the best or whatever. Like I remember I had and like I think it was episode 8. I reached like 14,000 people or 14,000 downloads and I about shit my pants. But like I think that was one of the last times that I ever looked at the analytics because it's never been about that for me. And this just feels like such a gift. And I know I've talked about 20 minutes about acknowledging that, but it truly is such a gift. And now to think of where this story begins to shift once again of why I'm taking this sacred pause over the past few months, several months. I mean, I had that little inkling last summer when I took a pause, but I was like, absolutely not. What the hell are you thinking? Just take a break and, come back and everything will be fine. But there's always been, the past several months, this knowing, this pull that I couldn't quite explain, but it wouldn't like leave me alone. And it just kept getting louder, if you've ever felt like that. So this is where I want to kind of transition next is this decision that I've been sitting with a long time before today. that my heart, my soul knew that this energy of this podcast had expired. And I wanted to be really intentional with that word because I don't mean that the podcast itself like isn't relevant anymore. Like, fuck yes, this podcast is absolutely relevant. And I made a whole list of categorizing. If you're struggling with anxiety, listen to these. If you're struggling with feeling, listen to these episodes. If you're just getting started, listen to these episodes. So, very much like this is not going anywhere, this show. I still love teaching. I'm not going anywhere. I still love sitting behind the microphone, right? This work is my life work. That none of that has changed. What has expired is the energy in which I was showing up with. I mean, I felt like I was riding this wave that has already reached the shore. And that doesn't mean like I would still show up passion. I loved getting behind the mic every week, but I knew I knew that there was another wave beginning to form behind me, and I couldn't catch it because I was still trying to ride this old one. And it's really hard to explain. So I tried to put it in that visual because like sometimes, a lot of times, who am I kidding? Your intuition knows before your mind is willing to admit. Like your intuition always knows before your mind is willing to admit. However, sometimes we don't listen to that intuition. And I mean, like everything on the outside looked great, right? This podcast is thriving. I was here every week without fail. But inside, something was whispering, like, this season is complete. And that whisper kept getting louder and louder. And eventually, like, it started to become a chore. And it was all that I could hear. And I felt like I was forcing, and I felt like I didn't have enough time. And, all that urgency and just that heaviness was what I was feeling. And I would, procrastinate and wait until the last minute. And because I was so, enthralled with now that I know why, but I would just push past it. And I told myself, like, maybe I just need a break. Maybe I need to rebrand again. Maybe I should just release one episode every couple weeks or once a month. And I like just kept trying to negotiate. And I kept thinking, like, there has to be another option because I really loved this. I still love this. So there had to have been a way to keep going. But every time that I sat, with myself, I had a second, that answer, I mean, it was consistent. And I mean, if you've ever experienced this, like, it's steady. Your intuition is soft, it doesn't yell, it's steady. And knowing that it's time to take this pause. I mean, there isn't like there is a reason, but it's not like I'm burnt out. It's not like I'm breaking down. There's no crisis. It's not like I just woke up one day and thought like I can't do this anymore. It's actually the opposite. Like I could absolutely keep going. But I also know that that's not the point. The point is I would have been overriding myself. I would be saying one thing to you every Monday, to teaching you how to trust your intuition while simultaneously ignoring my own. And that does not feel like integrity to me. And I know what happens when we begin to ignore those whispers, that steadiness is it will, scream, but not like that ego forceful way. It'll scream in other ways, like your body will start speaking for you, maybe through anxiety, maybe through exhaustion, through resentment, through illness, through feeling more disconnected in my life. Misalignment always finds a way for your attention. And then you're like, well, why the hell do I feel this way? Well, maybe if we would have listened to that silent or that quiet, not silent, that quiet whisper, that subtle voice, that loving message, maybe it wouldn't have had to be so loud in this way. And I've always been someone to say, slap me in the face with a sign. But really in that discerning piece. Oh, I don't want to take that tangent, but I've learned the hard way before. And I mean, we've all learned the hard way, right? And it's really coming back to the lessons, or maybe looking back at that hindsight like, ooh, you know, I did, get that message that hit that download, XYZ time prior. And then it, came back even louder. So this decision, all that to say, this decision has not been made lightly. And this is probably one of the first times, granted, it has been months progression, but this has been a time where I'm choosing to listen before something has to break. Like I'm choosing preventative care for my soul instead of waiting for something to be completely depleted and for resentments to grow. Like instead of waiting until I resent the very thing that has brought me so much joy and saved me in so many ways, I'm genuinely feeling called to make this decision before I build those resentments. Like I don't ever want this microphone. This look at me. I'm just like sitting cozy on my chair in my practice in my office and just talking into this mic. Like I never want this time to ever be something I resent. It's given me too much. And this show has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. So I realized that I need to start taking my own advice. And I couldn't think my way through this decision. Like I couldn't. I couldn't think my way. I couldn't journal my way. I couldn't, make the pros and cons list. And that's what brings me to I needed to take my own advice. I needed to feel it. I had to sit with the grief. I had to sit with the excitement, the fear, the sadness, the relief, like all of it, the back, the forth, the ebbs, the flows. And I didn't feel that I needed to rush myself into an answer. Like I was pretty good in the consistent flow, but the clarity arrived. It really did. And that is why this decision really feels bittersweet. Like you've already heard, like there's tears. There's been a lot of tears. Tears were shed on this episode already, but and there's still grief. But I know with this chapter closing with intention, I'm making room for something else to begin. And that feels so freeing. I don't believe that we ever really let go just for the sake of letting go. Like we're making space, we're creating room, we're opening our hands or our hearts to receive something that doesn't have the capacity to fit while we're still gripping onto what was. And that is exactly what this feels like. Like this is not an ending metaphorically, because it is an ending to this podcast for now. But metaphorically, it's not an ending. It's like it's this making space for this new beginning, for presence, for my family, for community, for creativity. I have been in such that cadence that I feel like the creative side of me has not had a chance to like be let out of the cage. And coming back to the community piece, like there's so much on the horizon if you are local to where I am, that I've been dabbling my feet into. I've been laying back in the weeds. I've been going to said meetings and I've been joining said groups and I've just been observing, observing, observing. Where are the gaps? What bridges, can I help, mend? Where can I step in? And I truly feel that that is the space that I'm creating. And there's just something deeply nourishing about that. It's not even scary. And that also is really cool because obviously in the past, I'd be very stuck on the ego of, well, what if, or what am I supposed to do, or what's the next step, or what's the solution? And I have no idea where I'm going to feel this time. But by golly, number one, I would love to be bored for a minute or two, but I know that I won't be. But it's just this space will be filled with something massive. And I don't quite know what that is yet, but I do know that it's going to be massive. And then there's my family. Like, my goodness, my family. My family has always been my why, as many of us, and a lot, I mean, everything that we do. Like, our why is always the people that we love most, right? And the cliche piece of my kids are only little once. Like every parent says it. Every parent warns you, and it goes fast. Days are long, years are short. And I mean, every single time we're like, "Yep, you're right. Can't believe another year has passed. Can't believe another summer is gone." Like we're growing, we're changing. We're so stuck in the monotony of the day to day. Like my kids needing me a year ago is completely different for how they need me now. And I don't want to wake up or feel that I'm disconnected from them. And I'm not saying I was getting to that space. Of course, we go through seasons and we're busier than, there's definitely times where I'm like, ooh, I've been working a lot. I need to step back a little bit and really focus on that intention of being present. But I never want to wake up and feel that I was so busy building this life that I actually forgot to fully live it. And that's also been really heavy on my heart. Like I woke up this morning and I, turned to my husband and I was just like, I feel that I haven't been showing how grateful I am lately. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you do. But I'm like, no, I haven't. Like, always on edge or going through, this season with the littlest one. She's going through the defiance and, being heard no and getting having the tantrum every time she doesn't get her way. And, then the triggers with us or whatever that might be. It really, I needed like that grounding piece because everything else, aside from my family, everything else, my work, my business, my ideas, like they're always going to be there. But this version of who I am with my children, the version of my children that where they are in this present moment won't always be the same. This season won't always be the same. The days that I get with them every week, home with me in the summer, or the hour and a half bedtime routines that I dread some days. Oh, just the spontaneity and of, the little dance parties if we're having big emotions to, turn on a song and dance it out or having, a little hand on my hand and asking like, "Why are your hands so much bigger than mine, mommy?" Just like these little moments are so sacred. And I never want to sacrifice my presence for the productivity. And now going back, that was another little tangent, but going back to like exactly what this next wave of my life is, I don't really know. Maybe it'll mean working a little less. Maybe it'll mean working smarter instead of harder, shaking up that cadence. Maybe it just means not working, as vigorously or doing the same work that feels deeply aligned rather than simply expected because it's consistent. Like, honestly, I don't know. And for someone that likes to have a plan, is actually really exciting. For once, I'm allowing myself to not know. I'm allowing myself to be in the mystery. And that, what's that quote, to trust that I don't need to see the entire staircase. Rather, I only need to see, that light of the first step. But what I do know is that without a shadow of a doubt, is that slower living, as much as we can slow down in this fast paced society, and presence and connection and showing my kids, not just, saying what I want my kids to be or showing them, the importance of energetics and gratitude and seeing life through a lens of love. Like I want to be living that example for them. Like those are my priorities on top of holding, this space, this container for helping other individuals through my work do the same. Like I've never been someone to follow a trend ever. And that's because like I want to live the life that I'm destined to live. And if my work isn't supporting the life that I feel aligned to live, then something has to change. And that softness has been probably one of the biggest lessons within my 30s. Like success isn't just building a business that looks good from the outside or bringing in, the millions of dollars while quietly disconnecting you from the life that you're trying to build in the first place. Like success for me, it's lucrative, but lucrative like energetically. It's alignment. It's building a life where my values and my calendar actually match, where my nervous system feels safe, where my family feels presence, where my family feels resilience, right? We're going to reach those nervous system triggers. We're going to, fall into those big emotions, but we have the resilience. We're learning the foundational skills of living a life rooted in love, and where my work energizes me instead of depletes me. And I have enough spaciousness to hear my own intuition and allow that creative flow to be. So, if you have ever found yourself at a crossroads, or maybe, you're at this crossroads now, and you might be asking yourself like, how do I continue forward, or how do I go about this, or is it time for me to step away, or whatever it is. You could start asking yourself questions just to kind of get your feet wet, to allow that intuition, that soft whisper, to be heard. You can ask yourself like, where do I see myself in 1 year? What do I desire in 1 year? Where do I see my family? Where do I see my business? Where do I see my community? What kind of woman am I becoming? Because when we kind of zoom out, things become a little clearer. Like we allow ourselves to break up that cadence, right? Because if you stay in the day to day, I mean, you're going to get stuck in that rat race, that hamster wheel, that cadence of the monotony, that robotic going with the flow every single day over and over and over again. So when you zoom out a little bit and ask yourself, 1 year, 5 years down the road, not too far. I don't really go 10 years down the road, but 1 year, 5 year, where do you see yourself, or who do you want to be? What do you want to feel like? What feelings do you want to embody? Like, this decision isn't about my podcast, it's about my life. And the podcast was simply a place where I first noticed that shift. And that was for me such an important distinction, because a lot of times if we want to make a decision about one thing, we're allowing that new thing, again, coming back to letting one thing die, or letting one thing expire. We make space for that new thing, for that new season, that new chapter. And there's beauty in that. And there's grieving in that. There's there's that grief cycle also. There can be gratitude and grieving. And I know that this old version of me and this new version of me can't fully exist in the same way anymore. Like, this old version of me has expired. Like, she's not gone, she's still a part of me. She's not disappearing. She's not being left behind. She's fully embodied within me, but she's becoming the foundation that the next version of me gets to stand on. And that is bittersweet growth. It's not abandoning who we are, but lovingly thanking her for getting us here, for going through what she went through, for holding compassion and love for her. And I think that that's where I find myself today, like this in between. Not fully who I was when I started this podcast, but not fully who I'm becoming. Just like this in between, like this liminal space, this sacred space between what was and what will be. And it's fucking uncomfortable because our minds love certainty. Like, we love knowing what's next. Especially me, I love knowing, to have a plan, a roadmap, something tangible to hold on to. But life doesn't always work that way. There has to be some form of surrender, of letting go, of letting be. And sometimes, again, I've said this already, but life asks us to close a chapter before we are allowed to read or to begin the next one. And that is exactly where I'm at, in that liminal space. I'm standing at the end of one chapter without fully knowing what the next one looks like. And I just said it's uncomfortable, but it's not scary. It doesn't scare me anymore. In the past, it would have definitely scared Jenna, but it's peaceful. It's exciting. Like I'm not trying to rush it. I'm just allowing it. And this work of mine, this life work is truly just beginning in a new blossom, in a new season. I'm a steward of this work. I'm a teacher. I'm endlessly fascinated by healing, by emotions, by the subconscious, by intuition, by energy, by what it means to fully be human and embody all that that psychology of the mind brings and the heart connection. Like that hasn't changed. Like if anything, it's just become stronger. And this is me walking away with purpose. It's not me walking away from my purpose. It's creating enough space to allow me to evolve more into my soul's evolution, into my life's work here in this lifetime. And like I said, I don't know what's happening or what's coming next, but I can feel it that it's going to be massive. And one of my favorite metaphors, I mean, I have this tattooed on my forearm, is a cocoon. Like every time that I talk about this tattoo on my arm, it reminds me of why I have this cocoon. I have a whole forest, a little layout of this meditative space that I go into, when I'm meditating. And one time I met myself I was on this stump and I saw this cocoon, and it was actually, I came out of this cocoon. It was like this higher evolved version of myself. And I mean, that is our lives as we move through different seasons. We learn, we immerse, we question, we become curious, we consume, we study, we stretch, and then maybe we disappear a little bit. Maybe we go back to that cocoon to be able to blossom, once again. And I've done that over and over, going back to that, the maiden, the mother, the crone. Like I've done that kind of cycle looking back over and over. I see the pattern so clearly. So it's beautiful. So, before we close, I just want to give honor to this journey once again. I want to honor you and thank you. Thank you for being here. Whether you've been listening since the Balanced Mom Method or whether you found me last week, last month, last year, thank you. Thank you for trusting me with your time once again, for letting me be a part of whatever journey of healing, of evolution that you are on. Thank you for your messages, for your emails, for your reviews, for your DMs, for your vulnerability, for your stories. Thank you to every person who's ever stopped me in public to tell me an episode resonated. Thank you to every person who's ever cried while listening, who's ever had an aha moment, a light bulb moment. Thank you to everyone who's shared this podcast with a friend. Thank you to every client, to every woman who's walked into my practice, every male who's walked into my practice, every person who sat with me in this little corner of the internet or in this little corner of my private space. You've changed my life more than you will ever know, and I mean that. I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss Mondays and sitting behind the microphone every week, missing pressing publish, missing hearing from you after each episode. Like there is so much grief, real grief in this death and rebirth of my life. I don't even know how to put it. But I don't think that this is goodbye forever on this podcast either. It's simply a pause. It's a sacred, conscious, intentional pause. And I hope that these nearly 200 episodes continue to meet you exactly where you are. Because you're not the same person who first listened to them either. Like sometimes we could hear the same episode a year later and have a completely different level of perspective, of consciousness. So if you've listened here or there, like go back, scroll through, trust your intuition, see what jumps out at you as you're looking through the titles, or go to the show notes. I'm going to categorize different episodes for different seasons of life or different things that you're struggling with. You could jump to episodes that way too. And if you're specifically looking for something, like send me a message like, Jenna, what episode should I listen to if I'm struggling with XYZ? send me a message. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to send you a message back. You could send me an email at hello@naturalempoweredliving.com. Shoot me a message over on Instagram at naturalempoweredliving. I'm still serving clients. I am still being facilitating in retreats. I am still speaking. I am still doing this work, just in a different rhythm. So please, 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 please do not unfollow this podcast. Stay subscribed, because when it's time, I will be back. And when I come back, I will be back with new stories, new wisdom, new experiences, and a whole new season of life to share with you. And I want to leave you. I'm stalling if you haven't noticed. I want to leave you with a couple final thoughts. Like, if there's ever a decision that you're struggling with, it's okay for you to pause. You're allowed to pause. Even if something is successful, even if people don't understand, even when something might look good on paper, even when logic or your mind is saying keep going, but your heart is telling you otherwise, if your intuition is whispering, listen. I hope through this show you've gathered enough tools and resources to be able to discern what that intuition, what that heart feeling is, what that discernment is versus that ego, that force, that urgency. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I truly believe our intuition speaks long before our circumstances do. And I do also think personally that I've had a much higher tolerance in the past for staying in situations and places and relationships and things that didn't feel aligned. I used to have a higher tolerance for that. I did it for years. And slowly, as I'm stepping more into my authenticity, into my soul's evolution, into my embodiment, that tolerance for staying out of alignment, it's lowering, it's gone. And it hurts. I mean, oh my gosh, I just saw I can't forget. What did that image say? I saw a post the other day. And it's like, here you are just trying to mind your own business and not bother people, so you stay quiet, but actually it's bothering people or something like that. Because I mean, setting a boundary is gonna, like, either which way, it's gonna upset someone, right? So by you staying true to you, going back to those episodes of integrity a few weeks back, by you staying true to you, you will know your tolerance, you will know your limits, you will know what boundaries you need to place. And if you are doing it within integrity and within love and respect for yourself and others, there is nothing wrong with setting that boundary, for saying no, for stepping away from that relationship, XYZ. And I hope, if anything, like this episode also helps give you permission to trust yourself, to possibly take that trust fall, to surrender, to release what's quietly, done running its course. It doesn't mean you're giving up. Trust me, that consistency queen has come up like, oh, you're just giving up, or all those messages. Like, that hasn't been too often with this decision within the podcast. But I know darn well in the past, that you're just giving up or keep going or push through the hard or whatever those, voices are saying. No, maybe this perspective shift can help you. Know that by letting what has expired to go to the side, you're making space for what is truly aligned. It's looking for you. So this feels really weird. I don't want to say goodbye. I love you guys. I really, really do. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Keep trusting yourself. Keep feeling. Keep choosing alignment over obligation. Keep remembering that your past does not define you. Your emotions aren't something to fear. Healing isn't about fixing yourself, it's about coming home to who you've always been. Oh my gosh, I just had this epiphany. Like, this podcast started like as a little chronicle of my own awakening, and it's like ended as an embodiment of it. And I'm truly listening, like, to practice what I preach. And that's just a profound evolution. So if you've been listening for years, or if you just found this podcast, don't allow these 200, nearly 200 episodes become an archive. Like, truly allow them to become your library. to come back to a listening guide where you can explore episodes based on what you're navigating whenever you need it. Because, like what I said before, you're not the same person as you were either. I hope they continue to meet you exactly where you are. And with that, until next time, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. I'm sending my love and so much light. Bye for now.
Did you find this episode free or empowering? Please read my review. Tickle, boop.
Thank you for spending the sacred time with me on Naturally Empowered Living. If this episode brought you closer to stepping into your energy of alignment, I'd love for you to leave a written review and share how this show has supported your journey. Your feedback truly lights me up and helps others find the space of transformation. And sharing it with someone who might need it spreads the ripple of healing even further. Be sure to check the show notes for ways to connect with me and explore personalized healing sessions and mentorships to deepen your self-awakening journey. Thank you. I appreciate all you are and all you do.